It should not be part of what it means to live in Canada.
שלום לימור.
שלום שי.
יש לנו כרגע בממשלה 5 חברי פרלמנט יהודים, ומתוכם 2 שרים, שאחת מהם אפילו ישראלית.
נכון, אחת ישראלית, יערה זקס, היא השרה עמיתה במשרד הבריאות, והיא השרה שאמונה על מניעת התמכרויות ובריאות הנפש. זה תפקיד שנכנסה אליו בקיץ האחרון. אני פגשתי אותה באופן אישי 10 ימים אחרי 7 באוקטובר, כשהיה איזשהו כנס שנקבע מראש, כנס של סיג'ה, שהמטרה שלו להילחם באנטישמיות, הוא נקבע מראש, היו שם המון אנשים. ברעיון איתה שסוף סוף התקיים אחרי המון זמן של בקשות והגשת בקשות, קיבלתי 12 דקות, בו היא סיפרה לי גם על איך הממשלה מתפקדת, ומה הממשלה עושה, מה היא עושה בתור שרה, וגם על העניינים האישיים שהיא חובה בהקשר הזה של אנטישמיות. בוא נשמע.
Shalom, Yara Sachs, you're the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
שלום לימור, נעים מאוד להיות פה.
I want to start with something personal, as both you and I met about a week after October 7, and the Hamas attack affected everyone in the Israeli Jewish community, and you personally experienced a loss. So I want you to, if you don't mind elaborating on this.
So thank you for that. I do remember seeing you shortly after October 7th, and you know, for so many of us here in the Jewish diaspora and the Israeli diaspora, the trauma of October 7th is still very present in our lives and is heartbreaking each and every day. I have shared publicly that we experienced loss of people who we love, but we're very private in my family, and we haven't elaborated, and I choose to maintain that privacy. Each of us are moving through this trauma in our own ways, and as a very public figure, that private pain is something we're going through as a family.
Thank you very much. And I think since then, our streets are burning with protests like we've never seen before. Especially the anti-Zionist is used as a legit way to call for destruction of Israel. And I want to know if you feel the same as the Israeli community, and what does the government do about that, and if you have any personal aspect of dealing with it.
So thank you. It's been horrifying, the level of anti-Semitism that has skyrocketed since October 7th in communities across the country, from Victoria to Halifax, even in Moncton, New Brunswick. We've seen incidences where synagogues have been vandalized, where neighborhoods have been marched through. Even in my own community in York Center, we've been faced with businesses being targeted, with the Jewish Community High School being targeted, and the overpass, which is the 401 overpass, which is in the heart of the Jewish neighborhood. And even this past week at Mount Sinai Hospital. But what I've said time and again is outrage isn't enough. This is an all-of-government approach that needs to be put into place with addressing this rising escalation of anti-Semitism. And that also includes our university campuses and working with university presidents and administrators as well. What we've done as a government is certainly on the public safety side, we've increased the security infrastructure program. Previously, it was only available for places of worship. We expanded the program so that it includes daycares, it includes community centers. Any place where the community gathers is now eligible to apply for funding through the security infrastructure program, and we topped it up and added more funding to it. But we also made it more flexible, so communities are able to apply for security guards, which they weren't able to either, or to pay for policing if they need it. But the truth is, we shouldn't have to have this. It should not be part of what it means to live in Canada. We've all chosen to make Canada home. Regardless of where we come from in the world, we've chosen to make this place home. And with that choice means that we've chosen to be inclusive. And in this moment where that isn't happening, Minister Kara and I spoke about this a lot over the last few months of the war, of seeing the rising tensions between communities, the growing levels of hate, the lack of understanding the trauma that and pain that communities are going through. And that's why we announced the Community Resiliency Action Fund just about a week and a half ago, which will really allow communities to start doing that deeper work on combating hate, on being able to reach out to neighbors, for communities to come together and really understand and see each other, because we need to get back to that place. We need to get back to those conversations of what it means to be Canadian. What the beauty of Canada is, you can be like me, you can be Israeli Canadian, you can be Chinese Canadian, you can be Russian Canadian. But what does that mean when our communities, which are so diverse, what does it mean that we really live together and see one another and celebrate who we are, and that in our times of trauma we reach out rather than alienate, rather than create hate. But we're also a government that appointed a special envoy for anti-Semitism. We had Erwin Klautler was named on the day that my first day in the chamber, which is very special to me because I've known Erwin since I was 19 at McGill. And we now have the special envoy ambassador, Deborah Lyons, and she's been doing tremendous work going across the country, meeting with university presidents, meeting with administrators, meeting with policing to explain the deep fear that Jewish communities across the country are experiencing. And that work needs to continue as much as until I hope for the day that we don't need to combat hate. Unfortunately, we're in a moment where we need to roll up our sleeves, and all levels of government need to work together, and we continue to do so. I work with my local city councillor, and I also work with my MPP, who happens to be the Solicitor General for Ontario in charge of policing, and those collaborative partnerships are really what are going to make the difference.
Thank you. So I want to ask you, as a vice chair of the Canada-Israel Interparliamentary Group, what are you working on currently, if there is any?
It's a great question. And I'm the vice chair. The chair is Anthony Housefather, who is a wonderful advocate for the community and also for the very deep, long-standing relations that Canada and Israel enjoy. We're celebrating 75 years of allied relations. The relationship with Israel is not just a diplomatic one. It's one that runs very deep. Israel's a friend and an ally. And that's really important to highlight, and continues to be. Since October 7th, we've had regular meetings with the ambassador, with Ido Moed, with our group, updating on the various pieces of the puzzle, of ensuring that open communication continues between parliamentarians and the embassy, so that we can really have a clear picture on the ground from the team here representing Israel of what their needs are, what their concerns are, and also pushing back against the misinformation, anti-Semitism that we've seen online in relation to the conflict, and also a lot of the denialism that's happening with regards to the weaponization of sexual violence on October 7th. So these are all things that we talk about as a group. I will be stepping down as co-chair because I've become a minister. So I look forward for the work ahead, but really we're committed to maintaining that strong friendship and allyship that Israel and Canada have enjoyed for 75 years.
טוב, אז הרעיון הזה בעצם היה באנגלית, למרות שהיא דוברת עברית בסדר, אבל הדובר שלה שם ישב ובדק טוב טוב טוב, ובגלל זה נאלץ לעשות רעיון באנגלית, רק להגיד שלום בעברית, מעבר לזה. כן. בקנדה בכל יום מתים כ-23 אנשים ממנת יתר של סמים.
נכון, זאת בעצם המגפה האמיתית. והיא התייחסה לנושא הזה, לאיך מטפלים בסטיגמות, איך מטפלים בבעיה עצמה. קולומביה הבריטית, BC, אפשרה לפני שנה וחצי להחזקה לשימוש עצמי, כמות מאוד קטנה של סמים קשים.
מה זה סמים קשים?
קוקאין, הרואין. בכמות לשימוש עצמי.
מחדשת לי.
טוב, לא יודעת,
אני חשבתי שרק המריחואנה זה משהו ש... אני באמת לא ידעתי, חשבתי שרק מריחואנה. אני לא משתמש בסמים.
מעולה, אז אני בטח לא עודד אותך לעשות את זה. אז בוא נשמע מה היא אומרת בעניינים האלה.
Thank you. And you entered the role as a Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. Really, it's the biggest pandemic, maybe the internal problem that we face. And I know you've been working holistically with other ministers to address this issue in terms of housing and other issues. So I want to know, what is the biggest achievement you're most proud of?
So I'll take a step back before answering that and saying that we know this is the most serious public health crisis that Canada has faced in terms of the overdose crisis, but also the poisoned illegal drug supply that is sweeping through the country. I just want to take a minute to just acknowledge, and it's my life personally too. I've lost loved ones to overdose. No community is untouched by this. And you're in British Columbia, so you know, no community is untouched by this. And this is why the renewed strategy that we have, which I like to call the Canada model, which really anchors itself in prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and enforcement, really putting public health and public safety at the center of this, from a compassionate place where we really see people where they're at to get them the help that they need and get them towards wellness, in a holistic way. That means addressing housing, that means addressing complex needs, that means making sure there's primary care. All of these are pieces of the puzzle that I work with fellow ministers on, because you have to look at it all in a comprehensive way. But we also have had a suicide crisis in this country for many years. Our numbers haven't changed over decades, the level of suicide, and it's impacting our young people. COVID made this front and center when it came to mental health and worrying about the well-being of our youth. Through our Canada model, we have a very deep approach to what we call integrated youth services. So working in a holistic way with youth across the country, both in urban and rural settings. That's why the launch of the 988, which was our 3-digit suicide crisis prevention line, is really what I'm most proud of right now in the work that we're doing. It launched on November 30th last year. And for the first time, there is a national system that will meet someone where they're at in a moment of crisis 24/7, bilingual, and by text or by phone, to meet someone in their darkest moment, and to know that we have created a network of 39 hubs across the country to meet people in that hard moment, to get them to safety, is something that I'm so proud of. We say in the Talmud, there's like to save a life is to save a world. And really, to me, the 988 is such an epitome of what I believe in Jewishly, what I believe in my own compassion lens in working in mental health, and it's something I'm really proud of.
בואי נדבר על ריצ'מונד. אני חייב להגיד לך שהסיפור של ריצ'מונד הגיע לי עכשיו בדיוק כשאני יושב ורואה סדרת טלוויזיה, שיקגו מד, ושם בדיוק אחד הרופאים ביקש לפתוח מרפאה בתוך בית החולים, מרפאה שבה אנשים יבואו להזריק שם. זה נקרא מקום בטוח או משהו כזה, נכון? והבית חולים מתנגד לזה, וכל הרופאים מסביב אומרים, אנשים התחילו, קודם כל זה יהרוס להם את הסטטיסטיקות של הבית חולים, כי אנשים ימותו בבית חולים, זה היה הפחד שלהם. ושנית, אמרו, אנחנו כל הזמן נצטרך לטפל פה בדברים האלה, איפה יש לך מקום לדבר הזה? זה יביא לנו פה. ובריצ'מונד,
רגע, ואז גילית שאתה לא חי בסרט.
כן, וגיליתי שהחיים, בעצם אנחנו כן חיים באיזה סרט. כי בריצ'מונד רצו לפתוח בבית חולים, שגם ככה קטן בבית חולים של ריצ'מונד, רצו לפתוח שם אזור בטוח להזרקות,
וזה לא העניין, העניין הוא הסטיגמה, ואיזה אנשים יבואו ל-safe site, safe injection site.
כן.
איך זה נגמר?
תשמעי, קודם כל, אנשי ריצ'מונד לא פריירים. הם הפסידו פעם אחת בקרב, ברחוב אולדרברידג' איפה שגרתי קודם, באולדרברידג' בווסטמינסטר, במקום גינת כלבים שהייתה, רצו לפתוח מרכז שיקום לצרכני סמים, וניסו להתנגד לזה. אני זוכר שראיתי מודעות ולא הבנתי על מה מדובר, אבל לא יכולתי לעשות כלום כי היינו רק סוחרים שם. ואחרי שעברתי הסתבר שהם הפסידו ופתחו שם וצדקו, כי הפשע מסביב די גדל. אז הפעם הם לא ויתרו, והתפרצו לישיבת מועצה בנושא, ובמשך יומיים נאלצו לדבר על הנושא הזה. ראש העיר, שהוא אומר, אני ראש עיר כבר 19 שנה כאן, בחיים לא ראיתי התנהגות נוראית כזאת.
Thank you.
This is not some kind of a theater or a carnival. This is a very solemn occasion where we are making important discussions and decisions for the city. And I can tell you that I've been doing this since the mid-90s, and that is the first time I've had that kind of a reaction here in the city council. It is not going to happen.
הוא אמר, תבואו ותדברו, אבל הם ידעו שהם חייבים לדבר על זה, לעמוד על הרגליים האחוריות, ופשוט לא לוותר, וככל שאני יודע נכון לעכשיו, ההצעה הזאת ירדה מסדר היום.
אז אני שאלתי על זה את השרה זקס, ובוא נשמע מה היא אומרת.
So I understand that there's been a lot of community discussion about whether or not the municipality of Richmond will apply to the federal government for a safe consumption site. And this is where I say the balance between public health and public safety is so important, because there is so much stigma and fear out there when it comes to understanding those who use substances and what they're struggling with and the help that they need. As much as those discussions may get heated, they're very important, because that is the only way that we can really address the stigma and the fear that has come up in communities because of misinformation. And this shouldn't be a polarizing issue. This should be really, when we frame it and understand that this is a public health issue and that safe consumption sites play an important role in getting people to safety, to getting them to primary care, getting them into options for their own health and well-being. You have to open doors for people who are struggling. And sometimes that's the place where you build that first trust with them to get them to health and safety. Communities, obviously, they want to know that their communities are safe and open spaces to live in and enjoy and to be around. And that's why those, while they may be hard discussions, I think one of the most important roles that I have as the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions is helping Canadians have those hard conversations so we can get comfortable with what are the uncomfortable things that we have to deal with as a country. And that's really saving lives right now in the opioid crisis.
Thank you very much, Yara Zaks, the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. Thank you.
Thank you, לימור, ויום טוב לכם בוונקובר.
זה מה שאנשים אמרו שם. אתם חושבים שלא יהיה פשע, אבל הפשע יגבר פה. אנחנו אומרים סטיגמה או לא סטיגמה, יהיה פשע.
תראה, אין לזה תשובה חד משמעית, זה אנשים שצריך לטפל בהם, אבל אני מרגישה שכל הזמן מדברים על הקטע של לטפל בסטיגמה ובמצב, אז כאילו מנרמלים את הבעיה, ואז אומרים, טוב, תראה, מריחואנה זה חוקי, עכשיו סמים קשים לשימוש עצמי בקולומביה הבריטית זה גם חוקי, אז בעצם ממה אנחנו מטפלים? הבעיה היא לא הסמים, הבעיה היא הסטיגמה של הסמים, או מה זה יוצר אצל אנשים, איזושהי בעיה נפשית, ואז יותר קל לנו כאילו לטפל בזה.
אנחנו גרים 10 דקות הליכה מהבית חולים. אני לא רואה איך זה לא ישפיע על השכונה שלנו. ואני עוד רחוק, ואני חושב שזה ישפיע. הפשע ישתולל, נרצה או לא נרצה.
טוב,
בנימה לא אופטימית זאת.
לא אופטימית, אבל כאילו אנחנו מטפלים במשהו נורמלי לחלוטין, לא רק בצרות של עצמנו. תודה רבה.
ביי לימור.
לייק, סאבסקרייב, שייר, תגובות, להתראות.